idea on what they're planning on building there? Because it's been, I've heard for years, I think it might be zone commercial. Do you know if it's going to be a residential area?
Did the go live button activate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it says live stream offline and that it was last streamed on May 1st.
There's a
Yeah.
buffer area there.
There's not a buffer. This is just showing the setback, the dash line of the building.
Let's check something.
Okay, how close will that be?
There we go. Okay, it's streaming.
Okay, wonderful.
So the link was a little different. Let me just update that in here.
But I'm thinking that it's.
All right, and I'm not going to change that, but can you go to your page and just verify that you're seeing the intro slide, hearing my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
Excellent. All right. Great. Sorry for the last minute scramble, but we got it going.
The link was a little different. Let me just update that.
And with that, Tara, can I ask you to go ahead and mute? We're hearing the background chatter there in the office. It's pretty loud.
Yes.
Great.
Mute myself. Okay.
Curious.
All
All
right.
right. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. I mean, I'll be here, but I'll be muted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
All right. And to the members of the public who have jumped on a little bit early, we appreciate your enthusiasm and thanks for bearing with us as we got that technical hiccup worked out. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Tommy John, if you'd like, do you want to try out your video? Or are you just going to be on audio tonight?
I tried it out and it said that the host had me blocked because
Oh.
you cannot see your video because the host has disabled it.
Let me fix that very quickly for you.
I didn't take it personally.
There you go. You should be all set now.
I can't see me, but I will take your word for it.
I mean, you can turn on video. What I'll do.
I can't see. Well, that's fine. Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
Now we can see you.
Well, you've got the suit and tie. It'd be a shame if we had hidden you the whole meeting.
Yeah, we're in the tie.
Right. Once again, good evening to our public attendees who have signed on. We're going to get started in just a few moments here. All right, well, it's 7 p.m. and it looks like we're ready to get started here. One quick note before we do so, this meeting is being recorded. And with that, let me hand things over to Gina Martini from VHB. Gina?
Thank you. So welcome to the Town of Southampton Housing Plan Virtual Public Forum. This is for the Noyac Citizen Advisory Committee, CAC area. The Town of Southampton is undertaking a housing plan, which will be reviewed and adopted eventually by the town board. We do have with us tonight on the panel from the town board, we have Tommy John Scavone. We also have Diana Weir on the panel, who is Director of Housing and Community Services for the Town of Southampton, and she is leading the effort for the housing plan, which is being undertaken with assistance from VHB. So the Town of Southampton Housing Plan is, we're hosting a series of virtual public forums for the town to gather community input, thoughts, ideas about housing in our community. The town of Southampton is currently preparing a new housing plan, which will be adopted by the town board as an updated element of the comprehensive plan. Preparation of the housing plan has just started, and community input is at these virtual public forums is critical to developing the housing plan. The housing plan will guide the town in its future development of affordable housing. Community input is the most important part of this process. We thank you for your attendance at this evening's virtual public forum, and we encourage everyone to participate this evening. Town of Southampton is undertaking the housing plan and virtual public forums with assistance from VHB, which is a planning, design, and engineering firm with offices in Hauppauge. This evening's virtual public forum is hosted by the town of Southampton with technical assistance from VHB, and VHB will facilitate the public forum with a focus on gathering community input and engaging the community in the planning process. I'm going to hand it over to Matt from VHB, who's just going to talk to us a little bit about how we're going to be interactive tonight and how we go about asking questions and making comments.
Thank you, Gina. Well, tonight's forum, we're aiming for this to be interactive with a series of polling questions related to housing in the community. Polling results are going to be revealed and open for discussion among members of the public. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, look at the bottom of your Zoom window and you're going to see a couple buttons. First one is raise hand. And when you click the raise hand button, that sends a little indication to the moderators, and we will know that you have raised your hand and that you want to speak. So when the time is appropriate, we will let you unmute and talk on mic. If you're on the phone and you want to raise your hand, press *9 and it will accomplish the same thing. You also have the option to use the text-based Q&A tool. There's another button at the bottom of your toolbar that says Q&A. You can enter a question for all the other attendees and panelists to see once we publish it. We're going to answer these as they come in, if it's appropriate on the fly, and if not, we'll probably hold off a little bit later for the formal Q&A, but we'll do our best to get to every question as it comes in at some point. I believe that covers it. Back to you, Gina.
All right. So the Town of Southampton Housing Plan is proposed to cover the entire town of Southampton. This evening's focus is on the hamlet or the CAC of Noyac, but the plan itself will cover the entirety of the town of Southampton. We are holding a series of 9 separate virtual public forums, one for each of the CACs within the town. And as I mentioned, tonight we are looking at the hamlet of Noyac, which does include the unincorporated portion of Sag Harbor. In other words, the portion of Sag Harbor that is not within the village of Sag Harbor. As you can see from the land use map on the screen, much of Noyac is residential. That's the yellow part that you're looking at. And the green parts are the open space, recreation and open space facilities. So there's also quite a bit of recreation and open space throughout the town. We're going to give you a bit of an overview of the town overall, and also some of the demographics for Noyac, so that folks can kind of get an idea of where Noyac fits into the larger town of Southampton. So looking at the screen, you'll see that in the town of Southampton, the population is about 57,975. Of that, about 4,327 is population from the Noyac CAC. The average household size is about 2.45 for the town of Southampton. It's just a little bit larger on average, about 2.69 for Noyac. The total households in the upper right-hand corner there, town of Southampton, there's about 21,491 total households. Of that, Noyac is about 1,542. Total housing units, 43,826 for the town of Southampton overall. And then for Noyac, we're at about 3,100. Median home value in Noyac is slightly higher than the townwide average. Townwide average is about $653,800. In Noyac, you're a little higher at about $717,400. And then your median household income is slightly lower in Noyac, It's about 89,199 in town of Southampton, and you're at about 84,554 median household income within the Noyac CAC. So we covered the overview. Now we're going to take a look at some of the demographic characteristics within the town and within the CAC. The age comparison, you'll see that the age comparison townwide as compared to Noyac, Noyac is a little bit younger. Population is a little bit younger. You have a higher under 18 population. You have a slightly higher 20 to 44 age population. And then the town has a higher population of those 45 to 64 and higher over 65 population. So you're a little bit younger in Noyac overall. Educational attainment in Noyac, you're more educated in Noyac than the townwide average overall. You have a higher ratio of residents that have a college degree or graduate degree, and a lower ratio of residents that have no high school or only a high school degree. This is the highest level of education that we're looking at here. If we look on the right side of the screen, you'll take a look at race, which for the town of Southampton, it's about 72% white, about 5% Black, 20% Hispanic, and 3% Asian. Some differences, but not too much of a difference in Noyac. You're at about 70% white, about 0.2% Black, so there's less of a Black population in Noyac. You've got about 19% Hispanic compared with 20% townwide, very similar. And you've got a slightly higher Asian population at 5% compared with 3% in the town overall. Now we're going to take a look at some of the existing housing characteristics. Housing occupancy, you'll notice that as compared to the town overall, you have slightly higher owner-occupied housing units, owner-occupied as compared to renter. So your ratio of owner-occupied units is higher in Noyac, fewer rental units on average as compared with the town. You have about the same number of occupied versus unoccupied units and about the same ratio of seasonal to year-round units. As far as the number of units per building, the real outlier here, the real thing that is different is that in the town of Southampton overall, about 88.6% of housing units are single family, about 2.7% are 2 to 4 units, and about 2.9% are 5 to 19 units in the building. In Noyac, you are almost exclusively single family homes, 99%. And then about 1% of your housing units, or 30 odd units, are going to be about 2 to 4 units. There are no housing units in the 5 to 19 category. So you're mostly single family as far as size of housing units. Housing characteristics. Town of Southampton, as far as age of housing, which is on kind of the left side of your screen. Town of Southampton is a little bit, you've got basically 41% that was built since 1980, 41% of housing units townwide built since 1980, very similar in Noyac, about 40% of housing units built since 1980. When it comes to the older housing units, you have far fewer housing units that were built prior to 1940. So in the town overall, you've got about 13% of units that were built prior to 1940. In Noyac, only 1% of all housing units were built prior to 1940. And a larger percentage of the overall housing units were built during that 1940 to 1980 period in Noyac. And your number of bedrooms, a lot of similarities here. In the town overall, you've got most of your housing units, about 72%, have 3 or more bedrooms. About 19% are 2 bedroom, and about 9% are studios or efficiency units, studio 1 bedroom or efficiencies. In Noyac, you've got about 79%, so a slightly higher percentage are 3 or more bedrooms. About 20% are 2 bedrooms, and then only about 1% are studios, 1 bedrooms or efficiencies. So now we get to the fun part. We are going to have a series of polling questions. The first polling question is really just a tester. This is just to see if everyone is comfortable using the polling options on your desktop or your iPad or your computer. So you're going to just go in and enter you should have a polling option in front of you, and you're going to go in and answer the first question. What year was the town of Southampton founded? You're going to choose one of the four options. A is 1628, B is 1640, option C, 1780, and option D is 1826. So we'll give you a few seconds to enter in your answer. And when the results stop coming in, we will go ahead and display the results for you.
Let's give people another couple seconds here. We've got 44% have voted so far.
So we're going to have a few poll questions here. Purpose of the polling questions is really just to get folks interactive, to get people thinking a little bit. And after the few polling questions that we have about 4 polling questions, we're going to open up the floor for comments, questions, and open Q&A, and we can bring up some of these polling questions or other questions that we might have about the housing plan. Questions and comments, because that's what we're here for, is to get your comments.
Okay, Gina, I'm sharing the results now. Everybody should see these on your screen. 30% said 1628, 60% said 1640, 10% said 1780, and nobody went with 1826. And
So
Gina, the correct answer is?
1640, so most people got it right.
Great. All right, we're gonna put those away and we'll be ready for the next question.
Okay, and now we come to more housing related questions, now that everyone knows how to use the poll. So this question is, select all that apply. What types of housing are needed in the community? That's the question. What types of housing are needed in the community? We want you to select all that apply here. Option A is affordable housing. Option B is senior housing. B is senior housing. C is rental housing. Option D is home ownership. Option E is condominiums or co-ops. Option F, handicap accessible housing. And option G, something else that is not listed here. And we can talk about what that might be later on. But again, you can select all that apply. So if you feel that more than one of these options are the types of housing that are needed in the community, then go ahead and enter in more than one.
We're going to give people another little moment for this because they're taking their time going through these.
Absolutely. And again, the purpose here is we're not really tallying these as hard numbers. The purpose of these is to get everyone to open up the discussion afterwards, after a few polling questions, when we have open time for comments and questions. And some of these polling questions might come back as comments. We'll see.
Okay, we'll give people just another 10 seconds or so. All right, going to go ahead and end the polling in 3, 2, 1. Share those results out.
Okay, so we have got affordable housing came in with the highest ratio there, followed by senior housing, and rental housing and handicap accessible were very close with one another, both at 50%. Home ownership and condominiums co-ops both came in at 30%. So again, affordable housing came in at the highest, 80%, followed by senior housing. And we didn't have anyone who selected other. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, this question is, what form of housing is needed in the community? This is not select all that apply. You can only select one here. What form of housing is needed in the community? Your options are A, single-family detached housing, B, two-family homes, C, 3 to 4 family homes, D, multifamily townhouse style, E, multifamily other. This may include multifamily mixed use, residential over retail. Option F is garden style apartments or condos. And option G is intergenerational housing, which may be accessory apartments, carriage homes, etc. Again, what form of housing is needed in the community? Only one selection. This is not select all that apply. Select what you feel is most needed in the community. And again, we're going to open this up to discussion afterwards. So if you have thoughts or comments about these polling questions or the responses, hold them and we will open up for comments afterwards. The town is doing a detailed online survey, which will have similar questions, but more detailed questions. And those survey results are going to be tallied and they will be reflected in the housing plan that the town is developing. We'll explain more about that afterwards, tell you where you can get the link to that online housing survey.
Hey, Gina, we're going to give people another 10 seconds or so. It looks like we might have all the results.
A few more people coming in.
Great.
Responses.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this and we'll display the results again.
Okay, so the highest results came in for intergenerational housing, including things like accessory apartments, carriage homes, and the like. We also had about a similar response for multifamily townhouse and single-family detached. Both came in at about 22% of responses. We didn't get anyone responding for two-family homes or multifamily. Things like mixed use. We have two of the same ones here.
Yep, sorry about that. That was a hiccup when they got entered.
Okay, so, well, we know what we have the highest results on, and that's the intergenerational housing, clearly at 33%, came in substantially higher than everything else, with single family housing and multifamily housing having a good showing. So we'll move on to the next polling question. This is a pretty straightforward one. What size housing is needed in the community? And there are 5 options here. A, for studio or efficiency units. B, for 1-bedroom units. C, for 2-bedroom units. D, for 3-bedroom units. And E would be 4+ bedroom units, 4 or more bedroom units. What size housing is needed in the community? You can only choose one here. This is not multiple options. And it would be just what size do you feel is needed most? And we're getting everything here, all kinds of responses. And again, if you have comments afterwards, when we open this up for discussion, your comments are welcome at that time. We will try to respond to any direct questions that we can. Comments will be reflected in the final plan as we are working on the final plan. The final plan is going to be ready later this year. It will be presented to the town board. Town board will review and eventually, hopefully, approve or adopt the housing plan. The housing plan is a component, will be a component of the comprehensive plan. So this is one element of the town's comprehensive plan, focused only on housing.
All right, Gina, looks like we've got everybody who's going to vote.
Okay.
Let me display the results.
So 2-bedroom units came out at over 50%. Interesting. We didn't get anyone looking for or needing studios or efficiencies. 1, 3, and 4+ are all on the board, but certainly 2-bedroom units came out with the highest response rate. That was interesting. All right, let's see what we have next. And the next one is one of the last two polling questions. This one, identify barriers to building or obtaining additional housing options in your community. Here you can select all that apply. And you have a lot of options, and the options are pretty detailed. So option A, again, this is barriers to building or obtaining additional housing options in the community. Option A is zoning, approval process, local regulations, environmental regulations. That's option A. You can select all that apply here. Option B, high cost of construction. Option C, local perception of affordable housing or NIMBYism. Option D, substandard housing or housing needing rehabilitation. Again, we're looking for options to building or obtaining housing in your community. Option E is insufficient affordable rental units. Option F is lack of available land. Option G, high cost of land. Option H is taxes, high taxes, that's what we mean there. And option F is lack of sufficient public transportation between potential housing and jobs. Option J is other, which again we can discuss when we open it up for public comment later on. So we're looking for barriers that you feel are barriers to building or obtaining additional housing options in the community. You can select all that apply here. So if more than one of these options rings true for you, then please select more than one.
Looks like we're just about there, Gina, maybe another 30 seconds or so, because like you said, there is a lot to process here.
There's a lot on this polling question for sure. And we can discuss this in more detail afterwards. All right, you want to bring in the results?
Here we go.
Okay, so the majority of people did say A, zoning, approval process, local regulations, environmental regulations. But we really did have pretty much everything on the board showing here at some point or another. Following option A was option C, I guess, local C, which was local perception of affordable housing or NIMBYism. But we had a substantial showing for high cost of land and high cost of construction, and taxes and lack of affordable land or affordable rental units were all on the board. But the highest response was for zoning approval process, local regulations, and environmental regulations. All right. The next polling question is, I believe, our last polling question for this evening. And the question here is, what types of improvements would you like to see in the downtown area nearest to where you live or work? You can select all that apply here. What types of improvements would you like to see in the downtown area nearest to where you live or work? The options are A, traffic safety and traffic calming improvements. Option B, improved handicapped accessibility. Option C, improved lighting. Option D, decorative amenities such as lights, benches, etc. Option E is economic development. This is specifically business incentives. Option F, commercial facade upgrades for businesses. Option G is bicycle lanes and bike parking. And option H is other. And again, you can select all that apply here, so you can make more than one selection. What types of improvements would you like to see in the downtown area nearest to where you live and or work, assuming that some folks may work in the town? All right. I think a few more, usually get a few more responses, right?
Yep.
All right.
Give people, excuse me, another 10 seconds or so.
And again, the housing plan, once it's done, is going to be part of the town's comprehensive plan. It's going to be reviewed and adopted by the town board. And it will be the housing element of the comprehensive plan. All right, let's take a look at the results. Economic development and business incentives tied with bicycle lanes and bike parking. That's interesting. All right, we also had on the board traffic safety and traffic calming, improved lighting. Everything was really on the board, and other was on the board. So I hope that someone who said other will, when we open it up for Q&A, they'll tell us what else might be added in the downtowns that they would like to see that was not on here as an option. All right, let's go on to the open question and answer. So we want to hear more from you at this point. We're going to open this up to comments, questions, a couple of different ways you can do that. You can speak, you can write in your questions and answers. I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who will give us a walkthrough on how we're going to operate the Q&A feature this evening. And we will try to answer all of your questions or take your comments, which would be reflected in the final housing plan.
Thank you, Gina. So once again, if everybody looks at the bottom of their Zoom window, you're going to see two buttons. First one will be Q&A. Click on that and you can enter a question via the text-based Q&A feature. If you are unable to use the text feature or prefer to speak on mic, you can click the raise hand button and we will reach out and allow you to unmute your microphone and speak to us via audio. Anybody out there on the phone, press *9 and that will raise your hand and we can do the same and unmute you and allow to talk. Back to you, Gina.
Okay. Matt, were there any comments that came in that were typed in or written in?
We've got a quiet crowd so far.
Wow. All right. So while we're waiting for some comments, some questions, again, it's open. This is the time to either ask questions, and if there are direct questions that we can answer, we certainly will try to do that tonight. If there are comments, your comments are very important. The purpose for this public forum and all 9 public forums that we're holding and the online survey, the purpose of these is to gather public input so the town knows what this housing plan needs to look like.
Okay, Gina, we have some questions coming in now.
Okay, good.
First one is from Mike Arnold asking, can you elaborate on the content and objective of the housing plan that is to be presented later this year? And what will it influence or change and in what time frame?
Okay, I'm going to share this response with Diana. So I'll start and then I'll kind of hand it over to Diana. So the housing plan, as I mentioned, is to be the housing element of the comprehensive plan. It is townwide. It is going to include kind of a housing study. So we have to look at what exists right now as far as population, as far as housing stock, age of housing stock, size of housing stock, et cetera. And we have to look at what the demand is. And then, of course, we have to look at the all-important, what the town wants and needs. And that's what the purpose of these public forums is, purpose of the survey, to find out what the town wants and needs to best meet the housing needs of the town. This is it is a policy document. It will be, as comprehensive plans are, they are policy documents. It is intended to be a guide for the best way to meet the housing goals of the town. So ideally, we will outline what the goals are for the town and what the town's goals are, and then make suggestions about how to best achieve those goals. Did you want us to talk about the time frame and a little bit more about the housing plan?
The last comprehensive master plan was done in 1999. So it's 20 years ago. Certain elements of it have been updated at different times during that 20-year period, but the housing section really wasn't addressed fully. And things have changed so much, property values, type of land available. So the time frame is this is going to be an update to that plan, and that's what will be used moving forward for all the policymakers, for the town board, if there are zoning changes required, for the zoning and planning boards, as they're looking at applications that come in, this is a guideline. The town board will use this to influence their decisions moving forward. The time frame is we hope to have it done by the end of the year or early next year in that time zone. And then I think there will be, again, the town board will hold public hearings before they adopt the plan, and there will be sufficient notice for that as well. So again, this is taking where we are now, not where we were in 1999, which was a different way of doing things. So it's going to take where we are now, what housing, everything you're answering questions for, and then move that forward and update that plan looking ahead. I hope that answers your question, Mike.
I also want to just add that any type of, the goal of the housing plan is not to identify specific housing developments or developers or locations specific. This is not a proposed plan for specific developments. Any and all development, as you probably know, has to go before the appropriate boards. We have to look at zoning. The town has to look at, it has to be approved. There has to be an application. There's a formal application process. There's a seeker, State Environmental Quality Review Act process that all developments have to go through. So this housing plan is not looking at specific developments, developers, development sites. This is a more broad housing plan outlining the goals and needs of the town.
Thank you very much. We have one more question from Michael Daly asking, what is needed to allow apartments above stores in Bridgehampton as in Sag Harbor?
That,
Go ahead.
yeah, that again is a process that happens in zoning. I'm happy to say that over the last year or so, there were 2 applications for commercial development on the Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, and both of them are going to have apartments over stores. One is going to have 2 apartments, and another one is scheduled to have 4. They are now in that planning process, and they are going to be either approved or not approved, but that's that whole process going forward. That's why when Gina said, this isn't just saying where we're going to build it, this is saying what we should use as a guide, where we build and how much we need. We don't need 5,000, maybe we only need less amount, or maybe we need more senior housing because our senior population has grown. So that's what is the process for this. The planning board is the one that will decide, and anyone who is interested in a particular development can always make their comments heard at the planning board's process in their hearing section of their process, just as in the zoning. So that's how kind of that works within the town and the public. Again, you have another bite at the apple for each individual project that is going to be proposed anywhere by anybody.
Thank you very much. We have another question from Laura Bruno asking, will there be a piece allowing for more affordable housing in order to encourage diversity?
We are looking at, the housing plan is not just about affordable housing. It is about all housing, which of course includes affordable housing. So we're going to be looking at the housing needs. That includes affordability. It includes whether it's senior housing. It includes looking at the type of housing. Some of the survey questions we asked kind of get at that. This is what you have now. What do you need going forward? What are your needs? But affordable housing is certainly a piece of it, and it's an important piece of it. So affordability at all levels, both low mod income affordability, middle income affordability is all something that we're going to be looking at, and it will be incorporated into the overall plan. Does that answer your question?
The town board has been very aggressive in supporting affordable housing, but we have to make sure that the affordable housing that we build fits into the community, is something that is accepted by the community, and they're willing to take in each hamlet. The board is very concerned to make sure that when there is affordable housing, it's all over the town. So, and I'll let Tommy John speak to that if he wants.
Tommy John, if you'd like, go ahead. There you go.
Hi, I certainly would. A couple of comments about that. This is a challenge that has faced Southampton Town for many, many, many years. And as far as good municipal planning goes, having an updated housing component of our comprehensive plan is really imperative to get various types of housing projects going in the town. And, you know, it's important that everyone know, and I think it was articulated pretty well earlier, that this is not necessarily a specific plan for a hamlet, but an overall guiding document that's going to be used by many of our boards to move forward for housing and housing projects. We certainly do want affordable housing. And we also have an eye to the legislation that may be passed in Albany this year. It was passed last year, vetoed by the governor. It's going to be put up again. And this legislation could give towns more tools in its arsenal, if you will, to supply various types of housings for to achieve different goals. We want healthy communities, a variety of people and ages, and we need that going forward. So, you know, Diana, I think this is great. You know, good information and more to come. So thank you. I can't see everybody here, so.
I just want to mention that we originally, before the COVID crisis, were going to have, you know, a very large meeting for the whole town to be able to participate as one unit. But with the way the crisis happened, we thought about it. We said, you know, it might be better to have a series of meetings and kind of target our different communities, because every hamlet is different. One hamlet might be able to have more opportunity for certain types of housing. Some hamlets do not. Some are almost built out. So the question was, how do we do this? And we felt that you'd have many opportunities, because all of you can listen to this one or any of the other 7 that are coming down the pipe during the next few weeks. So don't feel that this is your only opportunity, or somebody missed this meeting that they can't go to another one to comment and listen and then, you know, be able to participate. So yes, we will have all these sessions going on through August. And then we will have the survey, which, as Gina said, is more in depth and will allow more. This is conversation here to generate, you know, interest in what you want to say. But the survey will be where we'll get a lot of statistics as well.
Thank you very much. Next question comes from Marios Nicolai. Is the town taking into consideration the difficulty for seniors to be able to afford to stay here and for young local people to afford to buy here?
That is part of one of the main goals of the housing plan, is to identify, you know, the age cohorts that are in need of housing and the affordability, the income ranges, existing housing options, and what future housing options need to look like, and to also identify what the goal, you know, work with the town to identify those goals for housing as it may be developed in the future, and, you know, meet the needs of the existing residents and people who would like to stay here or remain here, come back if they were, you know, previously here. So there's a lot to look at, and absolutely senior housing and affordable housing are 2 of the main components. And, you know, you also have housing that is senior affordable as opposed to family affordable. So we are looking at all of that for sure.
And let me interject and answer maybe a couple of questions. The initial impetus for this, aside from the fact that, you know, it hadn't been updated in a while, Assemblyman Fred Thiel is proposing legislation that will add a 0.5% tax, like the CPF tax that we pay now when you transfer a home, but that 0.5% will be dedicated to affordable housing, because of the cost of land, and you saw the responses, he felt that this would be a good way to do that. And people would say, oh, it's another 0.5% tax, but it really isn't, because he's increasing the deductibility on the CPF, which is 2%. So people, instead of paying taxes on 250 and above. Now they'll only have to pay taxes on 400,000 and above. It's a little complicated, but it's something that will help us. The tax together will be probably less than what you're paying with just the 2%. So it's an important part because we have our firefighters, our ambulance, our teachers, our hospital, that a lot of them are being priced out. And we hope that this 0.5% tax will give us the ability to do many, many things. We can rehabilitate, have grants given to people who want to rehabilitate their home and upgrade the existing stock, that maybe they can get a house that's cheaper, but it needs a lot of work. We can give a grant. We could do down payment assistance. We can do an employer assisted housing program where the employer would help and we would help. So the options are very, very large in what we can do. And that will be the next phase of this, probably in the spring. So hopefully that answers some of the questions about workforce here and who we target. We cannot target a certain job type. We can't say we're going to give housing to hospital workers or firefighters because it violates federal housing. But we can target those communities with extra advertising when we do have an opportunity. And the statistics show that most of the people that we have sold houses to in the past 3 years, about 90% come from the town of Southampton. People want to live close to where they work. That, you know, a 50-mile radius is usually the standard. So I hope that answers some of those questions.
Thank you, Diana. We had one other related question that I believe you just did answer. Melissa Hessler is asking, is there any talk about housing for volunteer ambulance and fire department members?
Oh, we're desperate. If you drive up and down Montauk Highway, you see the signs. We need firefighters. We need volunteers. So that is part of the impetus to update all these issues so that we can address them. And like I said, we cannot just say we're going to give it just to volunteer firefighters because it violates federal law, but we definitely market heavily to the fire departments and the ambulance corps and the school districts and the hospital.
Great. Next question is from Mike Arnold. It says, this may be a zoning thing, but is this plan focusing on repurposing and refurbishing existing developed land, or is it biased towards building on new land? Also, does it consider elements of sustainability and energy? And finally, anything about traffic through the town? Sorry to spam you with questions, and thank you for answering my earlier question.
So as far as, let me go right to the sustainability question. Yes, absolutely. You know, when we look at potentially increasing housing in the town, we have to absolutely look at the infrastructure, and can the infrastructure handle it? Where can it handle it? To what extent can it handle it? So that all is something that we do have to look at. We can't simply say you need more housing, but not identify where that housing can and cannot be built. And we also have to identify the environmental constraints, which range from existing environmental constraints to things like sustainability requirements that may exist now that perhaps didn't exist in the past, and achieving goals for sustainability in housing. So all of that we are looking at. We are going to look at major sites which may be available for development, and we will look more generically at infill development, in other words, redevelopment of existing vacant or underutilized sites. I don't think that we intend to identify actual sites, because just to identify a site without a site plan or a developer we really won't go down that road with this. That's not the purpose here. But we do want to identify where there may be options broadly for things like underutilized, underdeveloped sites, perhaps vacant office, many things that can be repurposed for housing. So we will be looking at that. Did you want to add anything, Diana?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, because we will look at everything. This is not saying we're only going to build, because that's not going to solve our problem. We have to use existing properties. We have to create maybe accessory apartments, which is not a huge density issue and can be spread throughout the town. So there are many ways to be able to create housing that doesn't have to do with building new, because eventually we will be running out of land. So we're very well aware of that. But we want to make sure that we get all that input from the community.
And I just want to also add that all of the comments and questions and suggestions here tonight and throughout these public forums are being taken down and will be reviewed and incorporated within the housing plan. So all of your comments are very much appreciated. And you know that there's also the online survey, which we'll talk about afterwards before the end of the event this evening. We will explain where that survey is and when it will go live. But all of this is input that's very important for us to kind of roll into the housing plan. So thank you for your comments.
Great. Laura Bruno asks, how can we as residents continue to have our voices heard as the plans move forward? And how is information being disseminated to reach the widest audience, i.e. is it only sent to current homeowners?
I'll let Diana speak.
Yeah, I can answer that.
How we kind of
so
there.
we wanted to reach as many people as possible. This is why we're having these 9 forums throughout a whole 2-week period. Press releases were sent to the paper. It has been disseminated to the town's email blast list, including all the people that are on affordable housing list. We have flyers that were presented. So the number of in the email blast was about 22,000 people. And that's homeowners, people who have signed on to our list that live here, work here, wanted information over the years. We have this database of emails, and that's the main source that we did. All these forums, the very next day, are on the website for anybody that missed it for a particular hamlet. So the North Sea presentation, the whole thing, the whole video is available on our website. This video will be available tomorrow on the town's website. Every week, we send a reminder to the 22,000 blast email with another blast email, say, remember the forum. And again, we're also sending press releases out to the paper on a regular basis and the flyers. So we've tried, because of the way COVID is and we can't meet in person, we've tried using every bit of technology that we could to reach out to the whole town. And if you can share, believe me, go for it and share. We have meetings probably every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 3 weeks, I think, or 3.5 weeks. So hopefully, if you have better ideas, please let me know.
We also are, I think typically this is going to be broadcast on public access TV, correct?
Yes,
Tonight there was a conflict with the town board meeting, but we are also streaming to YouTube. So this is being recorded and will be available on multiple platforms. So that's helpful. The online public survey, which we're asking folks to take, we actually have a link, and again, we'll give you the instructions for this in a little while, but we actually have a link in that public survey which says, please share this. And then there's a Twitter, Facebook, where you can just send it to your friends, your neighbors. So it should be really easy to share that, that survey. Once you've taken it, you're gonna get to the last page of it. You're gonna enter in your last information, your last comments. And if you wanna share it with your friends or neighbors, your reading group, whomever, you can go ahead and do that. You can put it right on your Facebook and say, hey, take this survey. It's live until September 15th. Click here, take it. And so that should, we hope, once we get that survey to people, they'll be able to share it even further. So that'll be helpful as well. And we'll tell you before the end of the night tonight where you can submit written comments. Very easy. We're going to give you Diana's email address. We're going to collect all of the comments. We are going to be calling through them as we go, and all of those comments are going to be wrapped into the housing plan. And as we said earlier, the housing plan is going to be developed. It's going to be presented to the town board. Town board is going to have hearings on it. It's not just going to be something that's going to be adopted as is. So, this is the beginning of, and we don't unfortunately have a lot of information that we can share with you other than what we've shared tonight, because this is really the very beginning. This is only the second public forum, and we're really just starting the process.
Okay, Gina, we have 2 more questions in. First one is from Robert Calvert, and he starts this by saying, many questions for future responses. What aspects of the current comprehensive plan will particularly shape the approach of the housing plan? Will the basis of the plan's research be thoroughly shared with the public in advance of the study? Will it examine the impact of zoning codes, such as the preponderance of single-family zoning, on affordability? And is it to be peer reviewed? Are other town or city models with similar demographics being studied? Are academic institutions or other outside expertise being consulted?
Do you want to answer the beginning part of that, Diana, how the housing plan will speak to the comprehensive plan?
Well, again, it's part of the comprehensive plan, so I don't know how else to move that, because the comprehensive plan addresses many, many things. Transportation, traffic, schools, I mean, the environment and all the other things that shape the town. So it is the housing portion of that. And they will, when it gets promulgated and adopted by the town, which will also be a public process, then that becomes part of it. And you use all the sections of the comprehensive plan together.
As far as data being shared, the data will, all be included in the housing plan. It will be submitted in draft form to the town, and there'll be quite a bit of back and forth between the town and the town's consultant, VHB, and it'll be fleshed out to be what the town believes can be approvable by the town board, and ultimately it will be submitted to the town board for review, public comments, public review before it is finally adopted. So there is a kind of drawn out public process.
As far as peer review, we do a lot of that in-house. We'll go on every town's website for different things, like for the facade program, but this is specific to Southampton town. So we don't want to start bringing in or having other people comment on what's going on in our town, because they really don't know what is going on in the town. So this is really focused on what the town of Southampton has, wants to have in the future, and will be able to do in the future. So I hope that answers your question, Rob.
Hi, Elise Belarge from VHB here. Something else to be noted is that Gina Martini and Matt Hogan and myself are all from VHB, which is outside of the town, a private consultant. And so as far as that part of the question goes, this isn't just the town writing it. We are primarily writing it for the town with their advice, with your help. And so that's where that outside consultancy comes from.
And we are looking, this isn't the first housing plan that we've written. And we always obviously look at other models. I don't want to say, that's maybe not the right word. We're not modeling this plan after anything but this town. But we certainly are looking at what things have been successful in other communities, especially local communities, especially suburban communities. So, you can always learn from your neighbors to see what things have been successful, and, also to learn what has not been successful. So for sure, we're always looking at that.
And a lot of it is best practices. If something worked well in a zoning situation, but you look at it, no matter where you look, we are unique in our own demographics and our statistics. But if there are best practices that can move a zoning change the way they did in another town, or create another section of the code that will address certain things, we're always looking at that. Internally, our long-range planning department is always on that.
All right, we've got 2 questions left. If you think we have time, Gina.
Absolutely. We're going to stay as long as we need to and
Great.
Try and answer the questions, or at least take the comments.
Okay. Marios Nicolade, and apologies if I'm not getting that pronunciation right, is asking, has the town researched how many legal accessory apartments actually exist in single-family homes?
Yes, we do, because there is a permit process to have a legal apartment, and that is all captured in our GIS system, the govern system that tracks everything within the town. And I want to thank our town IT department for giving us the beautiful maps with all the zoning. So everything is tracked. We have an incredible GIS system that does that. So we do have that information. I think currently, I don't want to give an exact number, but there may be around 200 that are still requesting permits or renewing permits. And since we passed the accessory apartment legislation where they must be affordable, we have about 20 people in the process from last year that are in some process of building an accessory apartment within their home. But they have to go through building and planning and all those things that anybody else would have to do.
Thank you, Diana. Question from Robert Calvert asking, will the plan examine the relationship between housing opportunities and schools, examine the history of impediments to local fair housing opportunities, and examine the political barriers to housing in our area?
Let me start with the fair housing piece. This is not an analysis of impediments to fair housing. That I believe is done by Suffolk County.
Yeah, the participating jurisdiction, Suffolk County does.
So Town of Southampton is a participating jurisdiction and is required to be included in Suffolk County's AI. So that covers fair housing. And, you know, of course, Suffolk County will cooperate in any way with preparation of the AI, of the analysis of impediments to fair housing. And I'm sorry, what were the other two elements of that question?
This housing and schools, you know, school district information and housing. So I guess there was a relation, obviously.
Right. You know, this is a housing question, and we are going to be looking at age cohorts for housing, because that's very important when you're developing housing to kind of know what the age of people is, how many are preschool age, school age, and of course, how many seniors you have and what have you. So we will be looking at age cohorts, and we will be identifying where there are school districts. We are not doing a detailed school district analysis for all schools, but there will be some tie-in, some limited tie-in to housing and the potential development. Keep in mind that every development that goes before the town board or the town planning board or whatever it is, every single development has to go through a seeker process. So they have to analyze, they have to project the number of school children, what percentage of those school children would likely attend public schools. They have to analyze the impacts of the school district and identify whether the project can be accommodated without an adverse impact. So actual developments do need to go through a full detailed analysis beyond what this housing plan would do. Again, this is a town-wide housing plan, and it won't be very specific as far as actual individual developments.
As far as the political barrier to housing in the area, I don't know how to even answer that. I know that our town board is very supportive. They voted to have this plan, and they voted for the funding for the plan. So I don't know what control we as the town would have on other political barriers. You always have the NIMBYs, and that's not really political. It's kind of a community thing. So I'm not quite sure how you would even address something like that, Robert.
We will be looking at zoning, you know, impediments or zoning barriers, and making recommendations where appropriate for modifications to the zoning. They will not be detailed, but they will be more generic. And in some cases, zoning can be simplified. Zoning processes, permitting processes can be simplified. So to the extent that there may be appropriate recommendations, we would make those recommendations.
Hey, Gina, that looks like that was the last question for now. We don't have any raised hands.
Okay.
Oh, we just had one more. Laura Bruno asks, where on your website can we find the audio recordings of prior meetings?
So there's only been the one prior meeting, which was Tuesday, correct, Diana?
Yes.
And then we're doing roughly 2 per week. But is it on the main page, Diana?
It's on the brochure, the flyer that was sent out. But I think it's Southampton Town NY, blah, blah. And then there's a // public forums. If you want to email me, I will send you the links to everything that you need to have, including another flyer or housing registry if you wanted to get on for affordable housing. So please reach out to me and I will make all that available to you. Rather than try to dig through the website, I'm not sure exactly. Sometimes that can get like a little into the rabbit hole. So I will send that to you.
And we will have Diana's email address available.
Yes.
Just a minute. Are there any other comments at this time?
Laura Bruno says thanks, and otherwise it's all quiet.
Okay. Good. We're going to move on to next steps. And some of this we've been talking about. So following tonight's public forum, this presentation will be available on the town's website. So this PowerPoint will be available, and this will the recorded, the questions and answers that we've spoken into the record tonight will all be available to view. It's all been recorded. We encourage everyone to participate in the Town of Southampton's online housing survey. It is not live yet. It will be live from August 3rd. That's a Monday, August 3rd to September 15th. There will be a link right on the opening page of the town's website. There'll be a link to the online housing survey. It's fast, it's easy, and it can be completed from your computer, your tablet, your smartphone. The survey link is going to be posted on the website. I actually just took a run through today, this afternoon, and it was really fast. It's very easy. And that very last page suggests that you go ahead and you link the survey, not your individual survey, but you suggest to your friends that they take the survey. And you can do that by email. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on Twitter. So it's really easy to take it, and it's really easy to suggest to your friends and neighbors and family that they also take it. So the virtual public forums, as we've been mentioning, there are 9 of them, one for each CAC throughout the town. Tuesday we did North Sea. Today we're doing Noyac, and then we've got 2 next week on Wednesday and Thursday, and then it's roughly every Tuesday and Thursday until late August. For links to any of the other forums, and you are invited to attend any or all of the forums, although they will be, geared towards the individual CAC. Folks from anywhere in the town can attend and ask questions and comments for any of these. These are open. They are not limited just to the CAC. So for links to the other forums, visit the town's website. It's southamptontowny.gov. And again, thank you for your attendance tonight. Thank you for all of your comments, your questions. It's all really very useful, and thank you for particularly focusing in on Noyac. Development of the town's plan is underway. We expect to start the completion in fall of 2020, but as Diana mentioned, bringing this to the town board and wrapping it up and finalizing it will likely go into 2021. We request any of your thoughts, comments, anything after tonight that comes up that you want to suggest or comment on or question, please email Diana Weir. Her email address is dweir, D-W-E-I-R, @southamptontowny.gov. And we will look at all comments and questions and suggestions, and they will be reviewed and reflected in the housing plan. The whole purpose of all of this is to get your input, which is really what we need. Thank you.
And I want to thank Councilman Sciboni for taking the time to sit with us. He's very involved and very concerned about the housing issues in the town. So I want to thank you, because I know you're going to probably be at every single one of these, and we appreciate that time, John. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Have a great night.